I haven't done this in a while, but guess what, folks? It's story time. Hello there, everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire, here today to bring you a Tales from the Table episode. Now, I don't get very many of these lately, and, well, this was relatively recent-ish for me. This has already been a month, more than a month in passing, but I was running a 5th edition game for a friend of mine from college, her friends, and my wife, my lovely, amazing wife, who has made one of the best characters I've ever gotten the joy of, well, DMing a game for. And today's story was definitely a fair bit surprising. But before we get into all of that, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or if you've already gone on ahead and listed yourself with such an incredible roster of legendary heroes, then go on down there, hit the like button, and share the video far and wide. Now that we've cut that very short, hopefully not too loud or too quickly, let's go ahead and get into this. So, it's a 5th edition game of Dungeons & Dragons. I kept it simple, just kept it in Faerun, along the Swordcoast, and we have a Tiefling Paladin dedicated to Selune. There is a Dragonborn Druid, a Circle of the Moon Druid, if I'm remembering right, and then my wife made a fighter, a Dragonborn fighter that went with the Eldritch Knight subclass to get a little bit of spell casting under her belt there. Now, there was at one point a halfling monk following a gnome monk rather. A gnome monk that used a luchador-inspired fighting style. It was just an absolute blast. I've talked about it a little bit before, but it's been a while. But that player hasn't joined in our sessions in a while, and the other two, my two friends, they asked if their regular DM out where they're at could join in. And it's like, yeah, absolutely. So we got him in, and he made a Drow Warlock. A Drow Warlock that fled the Underdark. And, man, it's just been an absolute blast, but one thing has led to another. They ended up having to leave Waterdeep, and they left for an island for a martial arts tournament, and that went up in a great conflagration as the Drow Warlock had to let loose a puppet, a great red worm puppet. A great red worm puppet that he had gotten from his Fey patron, his wild Fey lord. Very interested in puppetry, being a puppet master and the like, and yeah, he had a great red worm that was originally the master of the island, and he wanted to capture one of her last descendants, and the warlock successfully did that for him, and the island was destroyed in the process of the worm's terrible wrath descending down upon it. Generations and centuries of different islander structures and pirate structures and different colonial buildings were just gone, melted or burned away to cinders. The island reduced to a lifeless ash and molten rock husk. And so they fled. They fled on a pirate ship, the Black Harpy, and they went down to Calimport, went to the gleaming jewel of the desert, Calimport. And while in Calimport, they were kind of starting to get the lay of the land. They're kind of starting to figure things out just a little bit. And the warlock, utterly distressed and unnerved by the sheer chaos that his Fey patron was causing him to unleash, went to a temple of Elistre. Elistre being a drow goddess, a chaotic good goddess. And while in the temple in contemplation, he was sitting down minding his own business, and an elderly woman came and sat down next to him, began talking to him about, troubles, life's ups and downs, the challenges. And this is an ancient drow woman who fled her house, fled the place where she had grown up, and had to find her own way in life, and was talking to the Drow Warlock about all of this. And in the midst of this discussion, a few minutes go by, but another figure comes in and asks to take a seat next to him, and he goes, Cal. Things are going so well. You're not actually looking to break our contract, are you? I can't foresee that going especially well. There can be all sorts of tricks, traps, turns, hazards to be had here. And before Cal can really stammer out the no, wait, he gets cut off by the Quinn, his Fey patron, and he says to the old woman, Illustrating, you're not actually looking to pilfer what I have rightfully stolen, have you? And the player just kind of has this moment of, what? What do you mean, Illustrating? Why am I sitting here between a goddess and a a Fey lord? What in the nine hells is happening? And the Quinn says, funny you should say that. And he snaps his fingers, and they all appear in what we would understand to be a modern day courtroom. To him, it looks like a courtroom, but it's very, very foreign, very alien. And up at the judge's stand, there's this massive pit fiend in black robes with a gavel that is adorned with screaming devilish faces, and he's wearing a massive white powdered wig. At his table, Illustrator sits wearing a very 80s looking, very stylish professional suit with those nice pointed shoulder pads, and has a briefcase with her. Cal doesn't necessarily recognize it as a briefcase. Like, this is a very strange satchel that she has. And at the opposite table is the Quinn sitting, eating popcorn through his mask. And his lawyer, because I had to spring for it and make this especially fun, was Asmodeus, Lord of the Nine Hells, recently ascended deity of hell, representing everything, that crushing, grinding bureaucracy of the Nine Hells, that relentless, soul-draining, soul-torturing, and eviscerating hellish place that the river Styx runs through. He was the Quinn's lawyer, and Cal just goes, of course this is your lawyer. And as the proceedings go, we need to call forth character witnesses, and they bring out the witnesses, and the witnesses are Cal's party to begin with: the Tiefling fighter or paladin, the Dragonborn druid, and the Dragonborn eldritch knight. And so they're brought aboard as character witnesses and also as material witnesses as to whether or not he's honoring his contract, whether or not the contract is being breached, or placing undue demands on the signee of the contract. That would be the warlock Cal. And they bring the paladin up first, and Illustrate questions him. How would you describe Cal's mood, his actions of late? And asks how long she's known Cal, and she goes, not very long, and he's kind of a jerk, but lately he's become more withdrawn and increasingly agitated and worried. It's actually kind of been worrying me, because he's a jerk, he's a douche, I don't like him, but he's never been like this. And Illustrator says, oh, thank you, no more questions. And Asmodeus comes up and says, you're a paladin, correct? Yes. And you're devoted to the goddess Selune, is that not correct? She goes, yes. Fantastic. Now, why did you decide to become a paladin in service to Selune? And she goes, oh, well, I believe in her tenets. This is something that resonates deeply with me, and I am honored being able to glory her name and spread her teaching, her words, and protect the various peoples that are in need of the Moonlight's revelations. And Asmodeus says, okay, wonderful, and what do you bring to the table in all of this? My devotion and my sword arm. Do you get anything out of this? Well, I get a lifetime of service. And he goes, no. We understand that you have promised servitude, but what are you getting in payment or exchange for that servitude? Do you have any abilities? She goes, yes, I'm able to channel magics. So you're channeling magics as part of a agreement that you have pledged yourself to. Yes. What would happen if you were to withdraw that pledge? I wouldn't have my powers. So, we are here today where the defendant is actively looking at violating the terms of his contract. Do you think he should go without punishment in that regard? Well, when you consider what's being done, no. We are considering that, but he had signed the contract knowing that the Quinn could exact service from him. Do you believe that he should be able to just withdraw without recrimination, without consequences for his actions? And she just finally said, no, I would suppose not. Thank you, no further questions. Now, I debated on throwing Talon, the Dragonborn Druid, up front, but instead, we came to my wife's Dragonborn fighter, Ryder, also called Erebus, just goes by Ryder, so he avoids using his real name. Not out of any embarrassment or shame or dark, shady, mysterious past. It's because he just wants to avoid his family. Nothing necessarily wrong with his family, just that'll be a story for another time. But Ryder has major bard energy, and I mean full-on meme bard, willing to sleep with anyone and anything, whatever spot they are on the spectrum of gender or entirely lacking of it. If they're down to party, he's ready to get down and dirty with them. Ryder is omnisexual, if that's a term. If not, fantastic, we have that now. So, Ryder gets up on the stand, and my wife plays him with his usual flirtatious sense and is making eyes at Asmodeus and playing coy with him. And don't remember the exact words, but something about we can discuss a whole nother suit entirely once it's off of you. And Asmodeus comes up to the table, just gives that slight knowing wry grin, and just places his hand on Ryder's and said, that will have to be for outside the courtroom. And Ryder just jerks his hand back and looks at the judge and goes, objection, Your Honor, this is harassment. He's attempting to seduce me on the stand. And Asmodeus steps back and goes, Your Honor, I'm merely attempting to maintain a sense of decorum here in the courtroom. This is something that is not relevant to the case, nor would it be appropriate at the time of the trial. Afterwards, however, and then Ryder just goes, oh, have you made eyes like this at any of the other witnesses so far? Have you touched anybody else's hands? And no, he hadn't. And Illustrates stands up and says, Your Honor, I move for a mistrial. And over the course of all of this, the players have been making rolls for Illustrate, and I've been making rolls for Asmodeus, basically. You could think of them as procedural knowledge checks, intelligence checks to move things forward, with Asmodeus having a significant bonus over Illustrate. Not that she's not sharp herself, just you're talking somebody that's fooled the gods themselves into giving him the 9 hells and managed to weasel his way into ascending the ranks into godhood himself. So it's been touch and go back and forth, but decidedly in the Quinn's favor. But when Illustrate jumps up and moves for mistrial, I rolled a 2 for Asmodeus. The party rolled an 18. That gave them a margin of victory there. And I was also decidedly stumped, shocked. Now, in theory, would Asmodeus be able to think of a way around all of that? Absolutely. And in fact, I was able to come up with some solutions afterwards too. But we were nearing the end of the session. Any break we took was going to be the end of it by that point. And I was just stumped, shocked, and I kind of liked the direction things went. So, yeah. Asmodeus lost a legal case. His first legal case. Not to a high intelligence character, but to the friggin' fighter with bard energy. Oh my god. And the Quinn, was the Quinn mad? Was he upset? Was he furious? No. This is a being of chaos who feeds off of drama. He's a puppet master. He likes pulling the strings and maneuvering things like this. Not necessarily with the skill and precision or towards a specific end goal like Asmodeus does, but just to simply feed off of the emotional content of it, drawing power out of it. So seeing this happen, a being of pure lawful alignment, get utterly stumped for the first time, and incidentally in doing so, causing Cal to both fulfill and nullify his contract in some kind of meta-quantum paradox, gave the Quinn so much energy, it just, again, fulfilled the contract and also ended it early by legal means. So the Quinn just stood up, throwing his popcorn, clapping and shouting bravo, while the pit fiend stammered at the stand, or at the judge's seat, going, motion granted, eyeing Asmodeus, wondering when he was going to be smoked and cast back down into the fiery pits as a lemur. And yeah, the Quinn just looked at Cal and said, do you understand the weight of what's just happened? The momentous nature of this? Not only will I release you from your contract, but I will maintain your powers in good standing. No tricks, nothing up my sleeve. I have supped so well on such a fine meal as yet that I've never tasted. You can have your powers, and we'll see what expands for you next. You don't have to worry about devotionals to me anymore. You are a warlock. Free. And that in itself is something, is it not? And so they were all whisked back to their original places in the mortal realm, and the player running Cal, the erstwhile drow warlock, just went, wow. I actually owe Ryder. I'm going to have to actively not try to kill his giant spider. Which, they have a giant spider. It's growing, it's young, it's only about the size of a... Well, it's bigger than a person now, but it's still growing. So, yeah, that's that story. It's Tales from the Table here. I hope you enjoyed it. It's been a while since I've done one of these. Hopefully I've made it entertaining. Certainly let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like today's content, hit that like button and, again, let me know your thoughts. Any comments, any criticisms. What ways can you see that Asmodeus could have backed out of that? My first one was recusing himself as a lawyer and recommending another lawyer in his stead so that the trial could move forward at a later date with a fresh pool of witnesses. I also ended up skipping over a witness, actually the soul of the drow assassin sent to kill Cal. Yeah, that was actually kind of a fun part there. But anyways, you still got the gist of the story. And yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And remember, if you haven't subscribed already down here to the Gamers Den, why not consider doing so? Go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamers Den. But with all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. I hope you all have yourselves a good night. Thank you for your time. I'm going to get to editing this and trying to get some sleep. Take care, everybody.